In fact, this act of grinding represents the spiritual practice of churning divine knowledge, which in turn transforms the intellect to a higher purpose in life.
Close to Grishneshwar is another Jyotirlingam named Vaidyanath. Out of the 12 Jyotirlingams, God Vaidyanath's name has a special prominence. This name signifies that the form of light, the Supreme Soul, is the healer of all healers, the Supreme Surgeon. If anyone has an incurable disease, they will turn to God in supplication for help and healing. When people can no longer manage the problems of the world, then the Supreme Healer, the Supreme Soul Himself, incarnates to erase the pain, problems and diseases of mankind. He is also called Nilkant, the blue-throated one. This is because he himself absorbs all the poisons of this polluted world, and so liberates mankind from all forms of evil.
Just a short distance away from Vaidyanath, near Pune, there is another Jyotirlingam named Bhima Shankar. This lingam represents the almighty power of God. The legend has it that God Shiva, through his great power, defeated the devil of the three worlds, Tripurasur. This represents that when human souls, due to their ego, are diverted towards and defeated by Maya, the human weaknesses, at that time the Almighty Supreme Light incarnates and gives humanity the power to gain victory over these vices.
Now, let us go to the south of India. In Andhra Pradesh, in Sri Shailam, the Jyotirlingam is named Malik Arjun. This Shiva temple is several stories high, symbolizing spiritual elevation in human life. Malika means jasmine, the beautiful, sweet, fragrant white flower. Devotees remember God as Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. Because God, as the seed of the world, is the benefactor and the extremely beautiful one. This temple commemorates the combination of truth and beauty of the Supreme God Shiva, who radiates his beauty and loveliness throughout the world.
Now, from Andhra Pradesh, let's go to Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, we find Rameshwaram Jyotirling. Here, legends tell us how Lord Ram went to the shore of the ocean to worship God Shiva and pray for power to overcome his enemy Ravan. Many Hindus worship the great deity Ram. However, in this temple, Sri Ram is shown worshipping God Shiva. This shows us that even the deities had deep love and devotion for God Shiva. The incorporeal Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, is not only the Father of all souls, but he is also the God of the deities.
Throughout this pilgrimage of the 12 Jyotirlingams, it is clear that each name reveals an important aspect of the identity of the Supreme Being. This allows us to gain a better understanding of Supreme God Shiva's great virtues and acts, and how we can fulfill our responsibilities by performing these rituals for God. But do we really understand the meaning, how these pearls of knowledge have become entwined in the rosary of rituals? The water, falling drop by drop from the urn above the Shiva Lingam, signifies that the mind has to be continuously connected with the Supreme, so that the soul is filled with the divine powers and virtues from the Supreme Soul. The milk, yogurt and water that are offered to the Shiva Lingam represents that in order to stay in the remembrance of the Supreme Soul Shiva, we need to have purity of mind and an enlightened character. The uk flower, datura and bell leaves that are offered onto the Shiva Lingam indicate that negative qualities, intoxications and addictions should be offered up and surrendered to God Shiva, the purifier. 3 lines of sandalwood paste are drawn on the Shiva Lingam with a dot placed in the center. This symbolizes that Brahma, Vishnu and Shankar are actually the creation of Shiva. Through Brahma, God creates the new world. Through Vishnu, God sustains the new creation. And through Shankar, the unaged impure world is destroyed. The Supreme Being is also called God. The initial of God signifies 3 divine acts. G represents Brahma, the generator. O represents Vishnu, the operator. And D represents Shankar, the destroyer. If the Supreme Soul Shiva is the creator of Brahma, Vishnu and Shankar, how could they be considered to be the same? In fact, we notice a great difference between Shiva and Shankar. The Supreme Soul Shiva is an incorporeal point of light, whereas Shankar is a deity with a subtle body. Supreme Soul Shiva is also the creator of Brahma, Vishnu and Shankar, whereas Shankar is just the creation of Shiva. The Supreme Soul Shiva dwells in the supreme abode of transcendent light, whereas Shankar dwells below in the subtle regions. The Supreme Soul Shiva is known as the benefactor of all, whereas Shankar is understood to be the destroyer. It is apparent that the temples are known as Shiva temples and not Shankar temples. This is why you would notice that the Shiva Lingam represents a point of light and not a Shankar idol. The festival is known as Maha Shivratri and not Shankaratri. Shiva temples are always called Shivalay and not Shankaralay. The deity Shankar is shown to be lost in the love of his beloved God. So who is that God? Since the name, form, dwelling place and activities are different, how could they be considered to be the same? Now you may ask, what is the relevance of these spiritual teachings for this modern world? We find that there is a connection, because today people are desperately searching for meaning and happiness in the world. They have become caught up in the attractions of a life of illusions. Mankind's ancient spiritual traditions have been distorted and their essence forgotten, while people today follow blindly the new materialistic culture.